Hello Zero Books readers. In this video we're going to go over a few of the philosophical arguments that were raised in a recent debate between superstar philosopher Slavoj Zizek and Zero Books author Graham Harman, whose book The Quadruple Object is a bestseller for this imprint. Along with that, we'll explore the character Little Bill from the 1997 film Boogie Nights and ask what it means to discover that your wife has an ass in her cock. Many interesting philosophical points were raised, many names were dropped, many apologies were given, and many standard Zizekian lines were thrown around during Zizek and Harman's 2-hour conversation at the Southern California Institute of Architecture. But no ultimate conclusion was reached. In fact, after Harman had given his 15 minutes of introductory remarks, Slavoj speculated they should not even try to settle their differences or come to conclusions, but rather that they should only aim to understand what it was they actually disagreed about. Consider this video as a supplement created to assist in that effort.
Does it work? I hope it works also.
It works.
Yeah, okay.
The first and most obvious disagreement between Harman and Zizek hinged on the difference in their opposing descriptions of both what constitutes and what causes anti-Semitism. And as their conversation rolled along, this difference exposed more profound ontological and epistemological disagreements. Now, for the non-philosophy majors watching, ontology is the philosophy of the nature of being.
It depends upon what the meaning of the word is.
Yes.
When you ask questions like, what is real, or what is the universe made of ultimately, or what is it to exist or to be, you're asking ontological questions. The pre-Socratic Greek philosopher Thales, who said that everything is made of water, is thought to be the first philosopher to ask and to answer such ontological questions. Epistemology is the philosophy of knowledge. Epistemological questions would include, how do we come to know what is true? Or is it possible to have certainty? Or to what extent does our experience of the world correlate with what is real? Returning to Harman, his ontological position isn't that the world is made of water, but rather that it's made of objects, and that these objects are always retreating from not only our understanding, but from each other. He says that not only does the world of objects appear upside down, as in a camera obscura, but this same kind of distortion is at work in the objects themselves. Whenever two objects interact, regardless of whether one is a yo-yo and the other is a human mind, or whether one is a flame and the other is a cotton ball, the interaction is always upside down, distorted, and partial. The flame never consumes the cotton without first distorting it. The political conclusion that Harman reaches, based on his object-oriented ontology and his speculative realism, is that claims to knowledge are always totalitarian. For instance, he suggests that anti-Semitism stems from totalitarian claims to know the essence of Jewish people, and to think that it's a very bad essence. Slavoj Zizek, on the other hand, has a different ontology. He doesn't claim that the world is made up of objects, even objects that are always in retreat, but that the universe itself is incomplete.
Quantum physics, what if this impenetrability is, and I mean this in the most radical sense imaginable, a feature of reality itself? Reality is not just out there, we cannot get at it. Reality is in itself flawed, imperfect, antagonistic, it's incomplete in itself. Imagine a video game. You move in it and you see some trees in the background, a forest. You cannot go there and see the forests, the trees from close up, because simply the game is not programmed in this way. If you come too close to the trees, you just see some vague dots, contours. Why? Because it's not part of the game. So in this wonderful reading that I like, it goes on like this, that the lesson of quantum physics is that God constructed our world like a lazy computer designer.
Zizek's ontology leads him to an epistemology that asserts the human subjects are also incomplete. He defines subjectivity as an inability to directly relate to oneself. What a subject takes to be his or her identity is not actually the subject, but an object that the subject posits and desires in an effort to cover up his or her inability to know the truth of him or herself directly. Zizek's theory of a subject is a little bit twisted, and by that I mean it's structured like a Mobius strip. Think of it this way. A human is just a kind of monkey. Humans are objects, bodies, physical beings. Objectively, humans are like all other bodies, all other things. However, to be a human is different. To be a human means that you experience yourself as broken. You, the person watching this video right now, are experiencing being broken. As an example, unlike all the other objective humans out there in the world, you don't have a head. All the other humans you encounter are whole and complete bodies, but your own body is fragmented, only partially visible, and where your head ought to be, there is a gap. The political ramifications of Zizek's theory are complicated. For Zizek, anti-Semitism is not caused by a totalitarian claim to know an object, but rather the anti-Semitic fantasy version of the Jew is posited by the anti-Semite to fill in a gap in his own being, or as a solution to his own problems. Zizek explains this by pointing to Lacan's claim that a husband who is paranoid that his wife is cheating on him is pathological even if his wife is really cheating on him. This Lacanian insight was dramatized in the 1997 film Boogie Nights. William Macy plays a character named Little Bill, whose porn star wife has a proclivity for publicly cuckolding him. As the movie progresses, Little Bill's wife escalates her betrayal and his humiliation.
No, hey, gotcha. You gotta go somewhere. So, hey, what the fuck? It's only the photography of the film we're talking about.
Are you giving me shit, Kurt?
No, hey, no way, Little Bill.
My fucking wife has an ass in her cock in the driveway, Kurt. All right? I'm sorry if my thoughts are not on the photography of the film we're shooting tomorrow, okay?
What's most significant about Little Bill, the way to understand him, is to realize that his relationship problem is emblematic of not only his own subjective alienation or fragmentation, but of a fundamental disconnection or short circuit in the world he occupies. Little Bill is a small part, and his story is played both for laughs and to provide a background context for the main characters and their story. The libertine mentality of the 70s, the hedonistic self-involvement of porn stars, the fun of a party world and party girls, all of it seems a little naive, a little goofy, maybe even innocent. But as the movie rolls along, what starts off as a little debauchery in the name of a good time and a little money slowly unravels into darkness. Little Bill, rather than being an impotent but likable joke of a man, turns out to be complicit in his own degradation and in his own ultimate demise. The problem for Little Bill is not that he thinks he knows the truth about his wife, and doesn't allow for how his own understanding of the situation is limited and distorted, but rather the entire pornographic world he operates in is premised on a generalized inability to develop anything but fragmented and disordered relationships, whether sexual or platonic, and even more profoundly, an inability to accept this inability as intrinsic.
I think that we should never forget, and I may be wrong, I'm not dogmatically clinging to it, that Trump's success is a symptom of the failure of the liberal center and left. This is why the truly dangerous person today for me, for example, is Nancy Pelosi. Because she is precisely renormalizing the situation. She made recently an interview where she said, don't worry, we had Reagan for 8 years, we had Bush, we will have Trump, things go normal and so on. No, Trump is really a catastrophe.
Zizek's approach to the 2016 presidential election, his quasi-endorsement of Trump, makes more sense when we see how his Lacanian understanding of both ontology and epistemology work together. Rather than taking Trump as an independent object to be understood on his own terms, Zizek suggests that Trump, like Little Bill's wife, is a symptom of our own modern liberal subjectivity. Trump is, in a sense, the ass in our wife's cock.